Welcome back to Wednesday is Missing by P.G. Lark. This is the final episode containing chapters 18 to 21.
Chapter 18. Mr. Hong comes clean. Megan, do come in. She sat in the same seat as before. A pile of papers had been cleared from the desk, though she wouldn't have gone so far as to call it tidying. What brings you here today? She thought he must know already. There were two mice on the mantelpiece behind him, sitting up, watching her exactly as the library mice had watched her. Those mice aren't mice, she said. They're inspectors, some kind of inspectors. Oh? He had the hint of a smile. Mr. Hong didn't tell her she was mad. He didn't ask what knot on earth she was talking about. He glanced at the mice. That was almost enough. They weren't pets. Normal mice would have fled a room with two humans in it long ago. These two stayed. They were waiting for an answer too. Why do you think they are inspectors? He said. I worked it out. They confirmed it. Surprise crossed his face. Knew enough to count. He was 13.8 billion years old. So surprising him should have been difficult. Apparently a girl who had reasoned her way there still qualified. They confirmed it, he repeated. I can't speak mouse, she said. I'd got everything except the word, and I wouldn't let myself write it down. Then one of them underlined it in a dictionary in the library. Inspector. It was the one word I had and wouldn't claim, and once they'd given it to me, the rest came. And then a second word to tell me what they wanted. Help. It took ages. They had to drag the pages over a clump at a time until they found the right ones. I tried to help and got my head shaken at for it. Mr. Hong nodded and looked at the mouse nearest him. The mouse nodded back. The mouse actually nodded back. You saw that, she said. I did. So you're going to tell me what you know. That would take a lifetime, he said. She kept her face still. Technically correct was still annoying. And it assumes I know more than you do. That may be the thing that surprises you most today. He folded his hands. But first, tell me your theory. That would take years, she said, deadpan. He smiled, which she counted as a point to her. They're not really mice, she began. Mice are clever, but not this clever. So something turned them into mice. They were something else before, something that could read. And whatever did it happened on Wednesday. People forget things, Megan. Not all at once. Not in the same words. She'd noticed that, how the staff didn't simply fail to remember Wednesday, but failed in the same neat way, with the same supplied sentence. A week doesn't lose a Wednesday. This one did. I lived it. So did you. So did everyone. Everyone except Philip. Philip. Mr. Hong's face barely changed. Megan counted it anyway. I think Philip is perhaps the only person at the whole institute who remembers Wednesday properly, she said. Which is strange, until you remember that Philip is the reason Wednesday mattered. He got into Dr. Light's lab while the inspectors had it open, and he blew up the proton counter. Probably not deliberately. The same machine that was supposed to tell me what I am. It mattered enough that everyone had to forget the whole day. Somebody removed Wednesday from their memories, changed the kitchen delivery log, then made the gap feel normal. She waited. Was it you? Mr. Hong looked at her, his expression neutral. That, he said, is an excellent piece of reasoning. A clean hypothesis, built from the evidence, despite how ridiculous the evidence is. So I'm right? In large part. He let out a long breath. The inspectors were real. They came unscheduled, unprecedented. I did not like it, but their paperwork was in order, so I let them begin while I checked them out. The folder on your desk, Megan said. The Unipol one. That was theirs. Yes? Not Philip's. Correct. Megan took the grey sliver of card from the back of her notebook and put it on the desk between them. The torn corner, NIPO, and the start of an L. One of them was carrying this, she said. In the library that first morning, before you'd introduced me to Philip, it's how I knew before they told me. Mr. Hong looked at it for a long moment and didn't pick it up. I didn't know about that, he said. It was, she thought, the first thing she'd ever shown him that he hadn't already known. She put the card away again. It was the proton counter they had come to inspect, Mr. Hong said. They had it open, with Dr. Light called away when Philip let himself in. The door was unlocked because the only people with the authority to seal it were the four standing inside. The four of them at their work, the boy in the middle of it, all of them around an instrument no one was supposed to be touching. On the mantelpiece the mice had stopped watching her and were watching him. He paused. The rest you have largely worked out for yourself. He glanced at the mice, including the part most people would get wrong, that the boy is the cause and not the means. You had already separated them. The counter was reading when it failed. Philip broke it. The counter did the rest. He paused again. You did not need me to tell you that. She had reached it herself over the dictionary, watching the mouse work. She didn't tell him how late it had come to her. And you wiped everyone's memory? I'm flattered you think me capable of it. Then who? Mr. Hong was quiet for a moment, and when he spoke his voice had changed. There are things humans are not usually told, he said, and there are powers whose authority is not much affected by school timetables. A day can be removed, Megan, by someone with the standing to remove it. Powers, not properties, she observed. Wednesday was removed, he said. Not the whole day. Its consequences stayed. But the memory of it went, and the records that said it happened. That takes authority. The world is administered more closely than people realize, usually before anything causes paperwork. Administered, she repeated. Some head office? On the mantelpiece the two mice were motionless. Mother Nature, he said, keeps a careful house. He said it the way you might say a neighbour kept a tidy garden, matter-of-factly, as if the removal of a Wednesday from 40 heads were a domestic chore, the sort of thing that got done on a Thursday morning between other jobs. That was the part Megan couldn't get past. Not that it was sinister, that it was routine. Two things then, she said, because lists were better than panic. If Mother Nature can take out a day, who else can? It can't only be her. No, he agreed, it cannot only be her. So whoever did it is powerful enough to... No. He turned the fountain pen over once on the desk, which she had never seen him do. That is the mistake everyone makes, and I will spare you it, because you have earned one certain thing. Whoever took Wednesday did not need to be strong. They needed to be authorized. That narrows things considerably, and it is still not a list I can see the top of. Megan wrote one word in her notebook. Authorized. He didn't say more, which told her she had asked something real. Chapter 19. Why me? And the inspectors didn't come by accident, Megan said. Unscheduled, unprecedented, your words. Someone sent them. Someone pointed them here. And if 4 inspectors never reported back, whoever sent them should be looking for them. She'd got into the habit of watching him when she said things like that. His face usually did almost nothing, and the nothing was usually an answer. This time it did something. They may be, Mr. Hong said, or they may already know exactly where they are. It wasn't evasion. She knew his evasions by now. For a moment Mr. Hong looked as Jed had looked in the kitchen, reaching for a Wednesday that wouldn't come. He looked like a man who had gone to a shelf he trusted and found it empty. I don't know, he said. She hadn't expected that. In several months she had never once heard him say it. You don't know, she said, or you won't say. The distinction doesn't usually come up at my age. He turned the fountain pen over once more. This time it has. Someone arranged for inspectors to arrive at my institute on a particular week, and I was not told, and I have not been able to find out why. I am not accustomed to that. I do not like it any better than you would. This was worse than a refusal. At least a refusal meant Mr. Hong stood between her and the answer. But he had reached for it ahead of her and come up short. 13.8 billion years, and somewhere above him was another shelf. This one he wasn't allowed to reach. So there's someone over you, she said. There is someone over everyone, Megan. I had simply got used to not noticing mine. He let that sit, then said, more practically, there is also the matter of the boy. He's dangerous, Megan said. Really dangerous, because he doesn't know he's dangerous. That's an excellent way of putting it. Don't worry, he's going to a special chemistry program over the next few months, somewhere with thicker walls. He says he's the chosen one. That only means Philip has a theory about Philip, Mr. Hong said. She almost smiled. He was quiet a moment, and this time the silence didn't feel like a trick. I'm sorry about the counter, he said. You were owed your day. I mean that. A few days ago that would have ruined her. Today it didn't. It's fine, she said, and found she almost meant it. It isn't, but thank you. The thing is, Megan said, the proton counter was supposed to tell me which element I am. Now it can't. An atomic number would have told me that much, but it wouldn't have told me whether I could keep quiet when it cost me something. Apparently I had to do that bit myself. You're on the inside now, Megan, he said. Nobody put you there. You behaved as though you already knew the answer, so here you are. It wasn't the same as being confirmed, but it wasn't nothing. She had one question left and she nearly didn't ask it. He would probably wriggle out of it. He'd done it to her all term. What is a mouse, really? What is a memory, really? It was how he got out of answering. What is a Wednesday, really? He didn't wriggle. I don't know, he said. 13.8 billion years and you genuinely don't know. I don't. Everyone agrees a day happened. Then everyone agrees it didn't. Nobody can explain the switch. He shrugged. I've seen a lot of strange things tidied away. Nobody's ever shown me where they put them. Why did they come to me? Megan said. She nodded at the mantelpiece where the two mice still sat watching them. Why me and not you? They've been in and out of your office all this time. You know what they are. I do. And they could have come to you. Could they? He turned the pen over. Whoever removed Wednesday had the standing to remove it. I have standing too, which makes me a person the cover-up could reach. From where a mouse sits, on the wrong side of everything, there's no way to tell whether I'm part of it, watched by it, or simply not to be trusted with it. You were the only one in the building the paperwork had never bothered to reach. He looked at the mantelpiece. They didn't come to you because you mattered, Megan. They came to you because officially you didn't. Which was, she thought, the same reason her notebook was safe. Nobody edits the records of a girl not yet worth telling anything. My confirmation, she said. The date you gave me. There's no counter now. No. So it isn't happening? Not on that date. Perhaps not for a long time. She noticed he didn't offer to find another way or tell her not to worry. That's not very reassuring. No, he agreed, but it's honest. Neither of them spoke for a while. It was, she realised, the only time sitting in silence with Mr. Hong hadn't felt like losing an argument. Chapter 20. Gone. The mice were gone by the next afternoon, though it took Megan a while to be sure. Strings was talented at making missing things look normal. She went to the library first, to the table she always sat at, and put her hand flat on the wooden rail beneath the notice board, where one of them had moved when she moved. Nothing came. She waited longer than was sensible. She hadn't realised until it didn't happen how much she had started to expect the small weight of being watched. Then she went to Mr. Hong's office. The mantelpiece was empty, not just empty, cleaned. There was a faint paler stripe along the wood where something had wiped it down, the kind of line you only notice because the surrounding dust makes the clean part show. Mr. Hong was at his desk. He didn't pretend the mantelpiece was the way it had always been. Where are they? Megan said. Taken, he said. Last night. Somewhere away from here. I was not consulted. There was a note, unsigned. Will they be changed back? For a moment he didn't say anything, and the not saying was its own reply. I don't know, he said. I hope so. I'm not sure it's the sort of thing that runs backwards. It was like trying to unboil an egg, she thought. You could want it as much as you liked. Megan spent an hour in Wheel Woods on Saturday anyway, where Mr. Hong had once claimed the mice were released and found nothing. She went home tired and with wet shoes. Her father was out, as he was most days now, looking at houses for when her mother and brother came over from California, and she was glad not to have to explain the shoes. She had known she would find nothing in the woods. She had searched so she could say she had tried. The worst part wasn't that they were gone. The worst part was that no one else would say what gone meant. No one else except Dr. Light had seen a mouse put its paws against the ruined counter, as if the wreck had once been a door. No one else had seen the dictionary with the word help scratched into sense by something that should not have been able to ask. By Monday, Strings had made the absence tidy, and Deborah Castle had somehow nominated Philip for a community award for ridding the building of mice. Where Deborah had heard about the mice was a question Megan didn't investigate. She had a fair guess. There were no other nominations, so Philip won Student of the Week and collected a £20 voucher to Cafe Dar from Mr. Hong. The audience clapped, but nobody overdid it. Philip had won because nobody else had been nominated, and plenty of students had been spoken at long enough to know what he was like. Megan kept her hands by her sides. The idiot hadn't only blown up Dr. Light's lab, he'd blown up the machine that was supposed to confirm her identity. He hadn't even meant to do it. He wasn't malicious, just incompetent. Mr. Hong at least had the decency to look apologetic when he caught her eye from the stage. Then Philip made it worse by inviting her to the cafe. "Would you like to come with Deborah and me?" he said after assembly. Deborah stood a few steps behind him, not looking thrilled by the idea. Megan said. "You should come," Philip said. "You've been involved from the beginning. That puts you in the inner circle. I expect there'll be several inner circles eventually." "Fine," Megan said, and she was even more certain he'd suggested Deborah nominate him. It would be a Philip sort of thing to do. The three of them met at lunchtime. "That's $29.90, the woman at Café Dar said. "Oh," Philip said, "I've got this." He produced the £20 voucher with the air of a man funding a small expedition. "I thought it would be enough." "I left my purse back at college," Deborah said. "Fine," Megan said, and put a £10 note on the counter. The woman smiled and handed the 10p change to Philip, who put it in his pocket. Megan joined in the small talk as best she could. Deborah seemed to like Philip, and to resent Megan's presence. Good luck to her, Megan thought. Philip talked. Philip did that. At first he talked about the mice, and his theory that he had discovered a scent humans couldn't smell, which had driven them away. Deborah found this clever. Megan found the ceiling interesting. Then while Deborah was somehow buying another coffee without her purse, he talked about himself, which was where Philip was always going in the end. "I probably shouldn't say this," he said. Megan deliberately looked bored, using the face that got the most out of him. "Say what?" "Only that I know now. Officially. Well, not officially, because there are forms and they get funny about process, but I know." "Know what?" "What I am." Megan put her cup down. She knew now exactly how much a person could refuse to react. "And what are you?" she said. Philip lowered his voice. "Phosphorus." He said it as if announcing a title. Megan didn't ask how he knew. The only machine that could have told him was the wreck in Dr. Light's lab. Philip had used it, got his answer, and blown it apart in the same moment. Fire that came when he was cornered. Things catching that should not catch. A match-struck smell in the science wing and around his hand. Phosphorus, it turned out, didn't care to be counted. "It explains a lot," Philip said. "Yes," Megan said, "it does." Inflammable and pyrophoric, she recalled from chemistry. Philip could spontaneously ignite in air. It wouldn't take much to unravel him. She could ask, in front of Deborah, how he had been counted when the lab had supposedly been closed for renovation. She could ask why the renovation had begun in the middle of the night. She could say the words proton counter and watch his face. She could make him uncertain. For once. "Thanks for coming," Philip said with genuine warmth. "And for not making it weird. Some people get jealous when destiny happens near them." Megan stood up. "I have to go," she said. Outside, just in case, she took the long way back through Wheel Woods. She thought again about exposing him. She considered it properly. Philip uncertain for once. Philip having to explain himself and finding out that consequences could happen to him too. It seemed certain he would blow something else up before long. It was unfair, but also right to say nothing. Exposing him would not fix the proton counter, bring back Wednesday, or help the mice. It would only hand ordinary people a truth they couldn't use, explain, or accept. Chapter 21. Inside. She went the long way back, past the library and the dictionary. The dictionary was back on its stand where it belonged. She opened it to the right page and found the word inspector. Then, pages back, the word help. The words were still there, but the scratched underlining was gone. Megan stared at the clean paper. How? Somebody had been very thorough. There were no mice on the shelf. And there wouldn't be again. They had come as inspectors, found Philip, lost themselves, and still tried to point her towards the truth. Then someone had removed the day they did it in, and come back since for the 2 scratch marks they left behind. She found she minded the second part more. A day was a big thing to take. 2 scratches in a dictionary were nothing, and somebody had decided it was still too much to leave lying around. She put her hand to the back of the notebook, where the grey sliver still sat between the pages. They had cleaned the underlining in the dictionary. They hadn't known about the card because the card had been in her notebook since the first morning, before there was anything for anyone to clean. She had picked it up by accident and kept it, because she didn't throw data away. The inspectors she could not save. She had understood that in Wheel Woods with her wet shoes, But there was a third thing she could do, the thing she was actually good at, and she did it now. She wrote it down. She wrote about the card and where she found it, and the mouse that had reared up on the spot, and the 2 words in the dictionary that no longer had scratches beneath them but once had, scratched there on a particular day by someone asking for help. She wrote it in her own plain hand, detailed and exact, so that it couldn't be smoothed over or tidied away or made not to have happened. It was a record of 4 people made unerasable in the one place nobody had thought to check. A notebook belonging to an unconfirmed student they had been told wasn't yet worth telling anything. If they ever came looking for what had happened to the inspectors, there would be one true account of it left in the world. She had made sure of that. It was the only help she had been able to give. Then she put the dictionary back and turned to the front of the notebook to add the date, as she dated everything. She stopped. There was an entry near the front she didn't remember making. It was in her hand, her own plain capitals, the ones she used for results, and it was dated, and it was exact, and it read, "Grimshaw recording now works on me. 12 minutes, n equals 1. She had tried the recording on herself once the week before on the same night she first dosed her father with it. On him it had worked. On her it had done nothing at all. She remembered 30 minutes wide awake, faintly disappointed. She still trusted that memory, though she trusted fewer things than she had a week ago. But she had no memory of trying it again. According to the entry, she had, and the second time it had worked. She held the page to the light. It told her nothing. She didn't cross it out. She did not lie in her notebook, and she wouldn't start by removing a true thing just because she couldn't account for it. This one she wasn't going to solve. It was a result with no experiment attached to it, in her own hand, and she was never going to find the experiment. That was the thing about the careful hands. They hadn't only taken the day, they had taken whether she could ever be sure of what she'd lost inside that day. She left the entry where it was. Then she did the last sensible thing she could think of. She didn't take the notebook back to her room. A notebook in a student's room was exactly the sort of thing that got checked, eventually, by people who checked things. So she carried it up to the high library shelves instead, the dark ones that ran to the ceiling on the far wall, where the spines had faded past colour and nobody had taken anything down in years. She found a gap between 2 books dull enough that not even a thorough hand would think to open them, and she slid it in. The grey card stayed where it had always been, in the back between the pages. Tens of thousands of books in the one building that had no holes for anything to escape through. One more wouldn't be noticed. That was the whole idea. A thing you wanted to keep safe from people who tidied the world, she had decided, didn't go somewhere clever. It went somewhere boring and stayed there. She would remember the shelf. The scale of it was the part she couldn't reconcile. Someone could remove a Wednesday from almost every memory and record, then make the gap feel perfectly ordinary, and tidy away the small things just as easily. A day, 2 scratch marks in a dictionary, it made no difference to them. She kept coming back to the same join, the one that wouldn't lie flat however she laid the facts down. 4 inspectors had come, unscheduled, from somewhere with the standing to arrive, uninvited at a place run by a man 13.8 billion years old, but they had not gone home, and nobody had come asking after them. Whoever was thorough enough to repair 2 scratches in a dictionary hadn't bothered to look for 4 of their own, which meant one of 2 things, and she didn't like either. Either nobody above had noticed 4 people go missing, or somebody had noticed, and was satisfied, had got the result they sent for. She thought of the lamp by the stairs, the one aimed at a blank stretch of wall, lit warmly and continuously as though something had once hung there, and the lamp hadn't been told it was gone. She had asked once and been told it was for symmetry. She understood it a little better now. The careful hands were good, but they were not perfect. Sometimes they took the picture and forgot the light. Megan didn't know who had removed the day or taken the mice, or whether the hand that did one did the other. She only knew that she was on the inside now, and inside, she was surprised to find, was where she'd wanted to be all along, but not the way Philip wanted it, with a phosphorus title and a £20 voucher for Café d'Art. Another way. A week ago, the world had been a building with 40 clever students in it, and a date in the back of her notebook. Now it had a hidden order to it, layers and powers and properties she wasn't supposed to be able to see. But she could. That was the thrilling part, and she let herself have it. Because the same fact ran the other way too. Once you knew a thing could be tidied away, you could look for the places where the dust was missing. Keep reading. Megan never did find out who sent the inspectors, or who had the power to lift a whole day out of the world and tuck it away. She wasn't the only one being kept in the dark. On the other side of the country, a 16-year-old called Noah Vale is about to fall backwards through a solid brick wall and discover that nothing is as it seems. Quantum Pizza, Book 1 of the Noah Vale Mysteries, is available now on Amazon and Spotify.
You've been listening to Wednesday is Missing by P.G. Lark. It was read by the digital voice of Simon Patrick and published by Rangutoto Press. Theme music composed and licensed by Moby Gratis. The story continues with Quantum Pizza. 16-year-old Noah Vale loves science, hates bullies, and definitely does not believe in aliens. That changes the day a chef is murdered by lightning on a clear day. As Noah investigates, he uncovers impossible truths about his missing grandfather and his own unexplained abilities. The clues point to something far bigger than a local murder, a cosmic feud, enemies hiding in plain sight, and a universal bank preparing to repossess Cornwall, possibly Earth. What Noah doesn't know is that long ago, before her explosive divorce from dark matter, Mother Nature hid her favorite planet in witness protection. Earth survived, unnoticed, until someone invented quantum pizza, the most addictive food substance in the universe. Now the countdown has begun. This isn't just a murder mystery. When the clock hits 0, the planet disappears. Can Noah crack the case in time, or will Earth become collateral damage in a tragic cosmic breakup? This work and recording is copyrighted P.G. Lark 2026. All rights reserved.
Noah Vale was running, not because he was in a hurry to get home, but because 2 large guys were chasing him. As he ran, he thought about the fight or flight response. They'd studied it the previous month in biology. A predator attacks and the prey either stands and fights or takes flight, running away to live another day. This was definitely flight. His predators were about 50 meters back. But Noah didn't feel scared. He was just doing what his old neighbor, Mrs. Hart, had told him to do, which was always to avoid a fight if you could. Her first lesson in self-defense. Be smart. Don't let pride get you hurt. His old neighbor had lots of useful sayings. He trusted her, or at least he trusted most of what she had taught him. He glanced over his shoulder. His pursuers' expressions appeared angry. Noah couldn't think what he'd said this time to offend them, and part of him wanted to stop and ask. But this wasn't his first time assembling flat-pack furniture. Another of Mrs. Hart's sayings. Eventually they would catch him. Slow down. Vale. We just want to talk, Connell called out behind him. Connell was the leader, the alpha male. Usually there were 3 of them, but only 2 were chasing him. Where was the other one? If this had been a few years ago, Noah might have believed Connell and stopped. But so many people told him lies. Connell was a liar, but a consistent one. Vale. Something in his tone. Desperation, perhaps. Could Connell be genuine? Maybe he should stop. But then Mrs. Hart's words repeated in his head. Always avoid a fight if you can. Noah didn't want to fight, but he felt confident enough to defend. He looked up at the fork ahead. Going left would take him the longer way home via the main road. The path right through the alley was his usual twice-a-day shortcut, but a secluded one. Then he saw Connell's other mate, a third predator, coming towards them from the opposite direction along the main road. His choice was made for him. He had tried flight, and it hadn't worked. Enough. Flight and fight, he thought. He kept running and took the alley, slowing as he followed it past tall terraced Sharphaven houses and their gardens. Noah soon saw what he was looking for. The alley took a zigzag right and widened before carrying on north. There was a brick wall along one side comprising 426 bricks. He didn't know how he knew how many there were. The number just appeared in his mind, some weird maths gift he'd had since he was little. For a while it had amused his mother. He ran to the wall and turned, intending to push off it and launch himself at the first attacker. He heard their footsteps, raised his right foot behind him and pressed his sole against the wall, thinking through the moves he would make. But then something incomprehensible happened. As he put his weight on the wall, Noah fell backwards. The world went momentarily fuzzy, and he landed in a pile of leaves staring up at the sky. His bag was still on his back, and he felt his lunchbox digging into his kidneys. What had happened? People don't pass through brick walls.